The metal hall of the Galactic Council gleamed under the multi-spectrum lighting designed to accommodate the 47 species present. Crystalline chandeliers hung from impossibly high ceilings, casting rainbows across polished surfaces that reflected the diverse assembly of life forms. At the center, a raised circular platform served as the speaking stage, surrounded by concentric rings of seating that rose toward the walls. Ambassador Mara Liu of Earth stood at the entrance, shoulders squared beneath her formal diplomatic attire. The dark blue uniform with silver piping, Earth's colors, marked her as different, as did the breathing apparatus hanging unused around her neck. Unlike many delegates, she could survive in the hall's carefully balanced atmosphere without assistance. "They're staring again," whispered Commander Jackson, her security detail. "Let them," Mara replied softly. "Deathworlders are still novelties here. Earth had joined the Galactic Council just 3 standard cycles ago, after centuries of isolation following first contact. Their homeworld, classified as a death world due to its high gravity, aggressive fauna, extreme weather patterns, and corrosive atmosphere, had marked humans as evolutionary oddities, creatures forged in environmental hell. The council chamber fell silent as they walked to their designated seats, positioned near the outermost ring, the traditional placement for newcomers. Mara nodded respectfully to the Luminary delegation as she passed, receiving a gentle glow of acknowledgement from their photosynthetic bodies. High Counselor Thrix, an ancient Moldarian with 6 limbs and iridescent scales, raised his primary appendages for silence. His translator device amplified his hissing voice across the chamber. "The 2047th Grand Assembly of the Galactic Council is now in session. Our agenda today concerns trade route regulations through the Perseus corridor, and..." The massive doors at the chamber's entrance burst open. A group of crystalline beings rushed in, their transparent bodies flashing with internal light pulses that conveyed extreme distress. Their movement created tinkling sounds like wind chimes in a hurricane. "Kira representatives," murmured a nearby delegate to Mara. "They rarely leave their system." The lead Kira, taller than the others and pulsing with deep blue light, approached the central platform. Its voice, translated through council technology, resonated with unmistakable terror. "The Devourer swarm has entered our outer system. They've already consumed 2 of our mining colonies. Our homeworld has perhaps 14 standard cycles before they arrive." The chamber erupted in panicked voices and flashing communication lights. High Counselor Thrix struck his ceremonial staff against the platform 3 times, restoring order. "The Kira delegation will be recognized," Thrix announced. "Elder Luminex, please present your evidence." The Kira Elder approached the central holographic projector. Its crystalline appendage interfaced with the system, and terrifying images appeared above the assembly. Massive organic ships, resembling living tissue more than vessels, devouring everything in their path. Space stations, shuttles, and even a small moon were being systematically broken down and absorbed. "The Devourer swarm has never ventured this far into council space," said Thrix, his scales darkening with concern. "Our intelligence suggested they were contained in the Cygnus arm." "They've evolved." The Kira Elder's voice broke. "Their new bioships move faster, strike harder. Our planetary defenses cannot withstand them. We beg the Council, send your fleets. Help us survive." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Mara leaned forward, studying the holographic images with growing concern. The organic ships resembled nothing in Earth's database, but the destruction they caused was unmistakable. High Counselor Thrix conferred with the senior council members, their voices hushed. After several tense minutes, he raised his appendages again. "The Council has consulted emergency protocols. While we sympathize with the Kira people, our defensive fleet is currently deployed along the Orion border due to increased piracy. Redeployment would take at minimum 20 cycles, too late to save the Kira homeworld." His voice softened. "We recommend immediate evacuation of your population to designated refugee worlds." The Kira Elder's body dimmed. nearly transparent with shock. Evacuation. We are a crystalline species bound to our world's unique radiation signature. Removal would mean slow death for our entire civilization. The Council regrets, Thrix began. The Council regrets? Mara stood abruptly, her voice carrying across the chamber without amplification, a skill developed through years of military command before her diplomatic career. A member world faces extinction, and the best response is regret. All eyes turned toward the human delegation. Commander Jackson tensed beside her, hand instinctively moving toward his concealed weapon. Ambassador Liu, Thrix's voice carried a warning. Earth is still a provisional member. You have not been recognized to speak. Mara stepped into the aisle. Then recognize me now, Counselor, because what I'm hearing violates the fundamental principle upon which this council was founded: mutual protection and aid. The chamber fell silent. Even the most ancient members seemed shocked at the directness of the humans' approach. Earth was admitted to this council because you valued our resource-rich system, Mara continued, walking toward the central platform. But perhaps there's something else we bring that you need more. The ability to fight and survive against overwhelming odds. She reached the platform and stood beside the dimming Kira Elder. Earth will respond to the Kira distress call. Gasps echoed through the chamber. High Counselor Thrix's scales flashed alarming patterns. Ambassador Liu, such unilateral military action would violate Council non-interference directives. Earth's provisional status could be revoked. Mara smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then revoke it, Counselor. But while you debate, Earth will act. Because that's what Deathworlders do. We fight when others cannot. She turned to the Kira Elder, whose crystalline body had begun glowing with renewed hope. Send your scientists and military liaisons to Earth immediately. We'll need everything you know about these devourers. As she walked back to her delegation, the chamber erupted in voices. Commander Jackson leaned close. Madam Ambassador, you've just committed Earth to an interstellar war without authorization. I know. Mara's voice was steady. Contact Earth Command. Tell them to prepare for our guests and for battle. The Kira Elder's voice rose above the chaos. The Kira people will remember this, when the Deathworlders came to our aid while the Council watched us die. In the observation gallery, a dozen species witnessed the unprecedented scene, a provisional member defying Council tradition to defend a world they'd never even visited. Among them, a Viridian merchant quietly activated his communication device. It's happening, he whispered. The humans are making their move. Yes, exactly as predicted. The emergency meeting of Earth's Security Council convened 12 hours after Ambassador Liu's transmission reached the Planetary Defense Network. The chamber beneath Geneva's new Capitol building was sealed against both physical and electronic intrusion. Its walls, lined with counter-surveillance technology developed after first contact, revealed just how many species could eavesdrop across light years. President Chimera Okafor stood at the head of the table, her dark skin contrasting with the silver gray of her formal suit. Her expression remained impassive as she listened to the heated debate among her advisors. Ambassador Liu exceeded her authority. General Hayes slammed his fist on the polished table. She committed us to a war we know nothing about, against an enemy we've never encountered. For aliens we met 5 minutes ago. The ambassador acted within crisis parameters, countered Admiral Elena Silva, the commander of Earth's newly formed Hell Fleet, ships designed specifically for deep space combat. Her weathered face remained calm despite the tension in the room. The Galactic Council demonstrated they would not act. Someone had to, and that someone had to be us? Secretary of State Williams adjusted his glasses nervously. We're still integrating into galactic society. This could set our diplomatic efforts back decades. President Okafor raised her hand for silence. What we know is this. A civilization is facing extinction. Ambassador Liu made a choice based on humanitarian principles. not political expediency. She turned to the holographic display showing the Kira distress images. I've approved her decision retroactively. The room erupted again until the President's quiet authority silenced them. Admiral Silva, what are our military options against this devourer swarm? Silva activated her tactical display. Based on preliminary data from the Kira delegates who arrived 3 hours ago, we're facing a biological collective entity that operates as both fleet and weapon. Their ships are living organisms, reproducing rapidly by consuming matter, including populated worlds. Dear God, someone whispered. The good news, Silva continued, is that they're biological. And humanity has centuries of experience fighting biological threats, from plagues to parasites. We're thinking outside conventional space warfare. Meaning what, exactly? Asked General Hayes. Chemical and biological countermeasures. The Kira scientists are already working with our xenobiology teams to identify devourer vulnerabilities. President Okafor nodded slowly. How quickly can we deploy? I can have the primary Hellfleet battle group ready in 72 hours. 150 ships, fully armed. But we'll be significantly outnumbered. Kira intelligence suggests a devourer force exceeding 5,000 bioships. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 150 against 5,000? Secretary Williams looked ill. That's suicide? Admiral Silva's expression remained unchanged. Deathworlders specializing in the impossible. Mr. Secretary, it's what we do. President Okafor studied the faces around the table. I want to be clear. I'm not ordering anyone to participate in this mission. This will be entirely voluntary. With respect, Madam President, Admiral Silva straightened. You won't need to order anyone. When news of the Kira situation breaks, we'll have more volunteers than ships. General Hayes frowned. You can't seriously plan to make this public? Not only public, President Okafor replied, but broadcast across all Galactic Council frequencies. Let the galaxy see exactly what Earth stands for. She turned to her communications director. Prepare a planetary address. The people deserve to know what's coming. As the meeting adjourned, Admiral Silva remained behind. The President studied her oldest friend's face. Tell me honestly, Elena, can we win this? Silva's eyes, gray as storm clouds, met the President's. Not conventionally. But we've never fought conventionally, have we? The galaxy calls us Deathworlders because our entire evolutionary history is about overcoming impossible odds. She smiled grimly. Time to show them what that really means. The xenobiology laboratory deep within Earth's lunar base Alpha buzzed with activity. Scientists from a dozen Earth nations worked alongside the crystalline Kira delegates, their translators creating a cacophony of overlapping languages. Dr. Terra Pham, Earth's leading xenogeneticist, carefully manipulated the holographic model of devourer cellular structure. Her slender fingers twisted and expanded the display, revealing intricate patterns within the alien biology. Fascinating, she murmured. Their cells contain both plant and animal characteristics, but with silicon-based chemistry rather than carbon. Elder Luminex, the Kira scientist who had addressed the council, hovered nearby. The crystalline being's internal lights pulsed with curiosity. Can your weapons affect such biology? Dr. Pham. Our energy weapons proved ineffective. Terra adjusted her glasses thoughtfully. Conventional weapons? Probably not. But we're not looking to shoot them. She expanded a section of the model. We're looking to infect them. She gestured to another screen showing microscopic organisms swimming in a culture medium. These are engineered bacteriophages, viruses that attack bacteria. We've modified them to target the specific biochemistry of the devourer cells. Viruses? The Kira's lights flickered with confusion. Our people abandoned biological warfare millennia ago as too unpredictable and dangerous. Terra nodded grimly. On Earth, we never had that luxury. Our history is written in plagues and countermeasures. She looked up at the crystalline being. Sometimes the most terrible weapons are the only ones that work. And if they mutate? Asked the Kira. If they affect other life forms? Terra's expression darkened. That's the ethical dilemma I've been wrestling with. These phages are designed with multiple genetic safeguards. They should only target devourer biology. But in war, nothing is certain. The laboratory door slid open, admitting Admiral Silva. The naval officer's presence immediately commanded attention, conversations falling silent as she approached Terra's workstation. Dr. Pham, I need your preliminary assessment. Will your countermeasures be ready before we reach Kira space? Terra straightened, meeting the Admiral's gaze directly. We have 3 promising vectors. The first attacks their neural pathways, essentially giving the bioships the equivalent of a massive stroke. The second targets their reproductive capabilities. The third, she hesitated, would cause systemic cellular collapse across their entire biological network. Complete destruction, Silva translated. Yes. Terra's voice had grown quiet. Extinction-level effectiveness, if deployed properly. Silva studied the scientist's troubled expression. You're developing a weapon to save billions of lives. Doctor, by potentially taking billions of others. Terra gestured at the devourer model. We don't know if these entities are conscious, if they have culture or language. We're making assumptions based on their aggression. They've consumed 2 Kira colonies already. Silva reminded her. Their intentions seem clear. Elder Luminex's crystalline form pulsed with grief. My people on those colonies numbered over 8 million. Their consciousness patterns, what you might call souls, were absorbed and destroyed. The devourers do not communicate, they only consume. Terra nodded slowly. I understand. I'll have deployment methods for all 3 countermeasures within 24 hours. Good. Silva turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, Doctor, I don't take this lightly either, but sometimes survival requires terrible choices. After the Admiral departed, Terra turned back to her work, fingers moving rapidly across holographic controls. Your people question the morality of defending others? Elder Luminex asked, lights pulsing with curiosity. Terra smiled sadly. We question everything. Elder, it's another Deathworld trait. When you evolve on a planet trying to kill you, you learn to examine every decision from all angles, because the wrong choice means extinction. She expanded the viral model. But we also learned that sometimes you have to act, even when the answers aren't clear. A curious species, the Kira observed. Violent, yet philosophical. That's humanity in a nutshell. Terra agreed, making a final adjustment to the viral structure. Now, let's make sure these phages do exactly what we need them to do, no more, no less. The Hellfleet assembled in high Earth orbit, 150 warships arranged in battle formation. Their sleek hulls gleamed black against the star field, absorbing rather than reflecting light, a design philosophy born from humanity's first disastrous encounter with alien weapon systems 2 centuries earlier. Aboard the flagship Thermopylae, Admiral Silva stood on the bridge, watching the final preparations on the tactical display. Around her, crew members moved with practiced efficiency, their faces set with determination rather than fear. All ships report ready, Admiral, announced Commander Ortiz, her executive officer. Weapon systems primed, biological countermeasures loaded into delivery platforms. Silva nodded. And our Kira guides. Aboard and integrated with navigation, they've provided the most current intelligence on devourer positions. Very good. Silva straightened her uniform jacket. Open ship-to-ship communications. The view screen activated, splitting into multiple feeds showing the commanders of each vessel in the fleet. Men and women of diverse backgrounds united by a single purpose, all volunteers, as promised. This is Admiral Silva. In approximately 6 hours, we will make our final jump to the edge of Kira space. Intelligence confirms the Devourer swarm has accelerated its advance. We now estimate they will reach the Kira homeworld in 7 days, not 14. She paused, letting the information sink in. We are outnumbered 33 to 1. Conventional tactics are useless in such circumstances. She gestured, and a tactical display appeared beside her image. Therefore, we will execute Operation Trojan Horse. The fleet will split into 3 battle groups. Alpha Group will engage the Devourer Vanguard directly, drawing their attention. Beta Group will deploy the viral delivery systems from range. Gamma Group, led by Thermopylae, will insert special operations teams directly into the 3 largest Devourer command ships. Murmurs rippled through the communications channels. Yes, you heard correctly. Silva continued. Direct insertion. The Kira have identified what appear to be central nervous system analogues in the largest bioships. If we can deliver our strongest countermeasures directly to these systems, we may cripple the entire swarm simultaneously. A commander from Beta Group spoke up. Admiral, infiltrating living enemy vessels. Has this ever been attempted? Never, Silva admitted. But neither has humanity ever fought a biological fleet. We're writing the rules as we go. Her expression hardened. One final note. The Galactic Council has officially condemned our intervention and threatened sanctions against Earth. President Okafor's response was succinct. Noted. A ripple of dark laughter spread through the communications grid. We go to war not just for the Kira, but for a principle, that in this galaxy, the strong defend the weak, that predators who consume civilizations will find humanity standing in their path. Silva's voice strengthened. Perhaps that's why we evolved on a death world, to become the defenders others cannot be. Prepare for final jump. Silva out. As the communications ended, Commander Ortiz approached. Stirring words, Admiral. Let's hope they're worth something when we're staring down 5,000 bioships. Silva studied the tactical display. Any word from Dr. Pham? She's completed final modifications to the delivery systems and is accompanying the special operations teams. Silva raised an eyebrow. She insisted on going herself. Said the countermeasures might need adjustment based on direct observation. She's our foremost expert. No one else could do it. Silva nodded slowly. Courage comes in many forms. Commander. The bridge fell silent as the massive engines of the Thermopylae powered up for the jump to Kira space. In her mind, Silva reviewed centuries of Earth's military history, outmanned forces that prevailed through strategy, determination, and often terrible sacrifice. Final countdown initiated, announced the navigation officer. Jump in, 10, 9. Silva took a deep breath. Somewhere in the vast darkness ahead, an ancient, hungry force awaited them, one that had never encountered humanity before. They were about to learn why Deathworlders were feared across the galaxy. The void at the edge of Kira space shimmered as the Hellfleet materialized from jump space. The black ships emerged in perfect formation, weapon systems already powering up as their sensors swept the area. Devourer forces detected, reported the Thermopylae's tactical officer, her voice steady despite the readings on her screen. 5,217 bioships advancing in 3-dimensional phalanx formation, distance 4 million kilometers and closing. Admiral Silva studied the tactical display, where the enemy appeared as a massive red cloud dwarfing the blue points of the human fleet. Time to intercept? At current speeds, 47 minutes. Silva nodded. Deploy according to plan. Alpha Group to forward position. Beta Group, hang back and prepare viral delivery systems. Gamma Group, prepare for insertion operations. The bridge officers acknowledged their orders, voices crisp with professional detachment that belied the gravity of the situation. The fleet began to separate into its component battle groups, executing the complex maneuver with precision born of endless drills. In the Special Operations Bay of the Thermopylae, Dr. Tara Pham checked the seals on her tactical environment suit one final time. Around her, 30 Space Marines did the same, their movements economical and practiced. Unlike her standard laboratory attire, Tara now wore a sleek black combat suit with additional pouches containing specialized equipment. Captain Rodriguez, the team leader, approached her. "Final briefing in 2 minutes. Doctor, are your delivery systems ready?" Tara patted the specialized containers strapped to her suit. 3 different viral vectors, each designed to attack the devourer biology in different ways. The primary delivery will be through aerosol dispersal at the central nervous system analog. Rodriguez nodded. "Remember, once we're inside that thing, we're essentially inside a living organism. Environment will be hostile, potentially corrosive atmospheres, internal defense mechanisms, possibly even antibodies that target intruders, like white blood cells attacking bacteria," Tara murmured. "Exactly. Stay close to your assigned fire team. If anything goes wrong..." "When things go wrong," Tara corrected with a grim smile. Rodriguez acknowledged this with a slight nod. "When things go wrong, focus on delivering your payload. That's the mission. Everything else is secondary." The tactical display in the bay activated, showing real-time imagery of the approaching devourer swarm. The bioships resembled massive, elongated organisms with pulsing, vein-like structures visible even at this distance. Their surfaces rippled with movement, occasionally opening to reveal what looked like maws lined with energy discharge organs. "God, they're ugly," muttered one of the Marines. "Beauty is relative," Tara replied absently, studying the biological patterns. "They're actually quite remarkable evolutionary specimens, perfectly adapted for space travel and consumption. Save the scientific appreciation for after we kill them." "Doctor," Rodriguez said, "everyone to positions. Insertion craft launch in 15 minutes. The bridge of the Thermopylae vibrated slightly as Alpha Group engaged the vanguard of the devourer swarm. From this distance, the battle appeared as flashes of light against the darkness. Energy weapons from the human ships impacting against the biological shields of the enemy. Alpha Group reports minimal effect from conventional weapons, Commander Ortiz announced. The bioships absorb energy attacks and seem to distribute the damage across their cellular structure. "As expected," Silva replied. "Have them continue harassment tactics. Keep the devourers focused on Alpha while Beta moves into position." On another section of the tactical display, Beta Group's ships began launching small, missile-like projectiles toward the rear sections of the devourer formation. "Viral delivery systems away," reported the weapons officer. "Estimated dispersal in 3 minutes. Silva turned to the communications station. "Status of Gamma Group insertion teams?" "Launching now, Admiral." The view screen shifted to show tiny, stealth-configured shuttles detaching from their carrier vessels. The black craft, barely larger than ancient fighter jets, accelerated toward the 3 largest bioships at the center of the devourer formation. "Those pilots are either the bravest or the craziest humans I've ever met," Ortiz murmured. "In my experience, Commander, it's usually both." Silva's eyes never left the display. "All ships, prepare for Phase 2. When those viral agents hit, the devourers will likely react violently. Be ready for anything." The insertion shuttle vibrated violently as it approached the massive bioship. Through the viewport, Tara could see the creature's skin, a mottled surface of purplish-gray tissue pulsing with bioluminescent veins. The sight was both terrifying and fascinating to her scientific mind. "Approach vector locked," announced the pilot, her voice tight with concentration. "Impact in 30 seconds. Brace for penetration." Captain Rodriguez checked his weapon one final time. "Remember, people, we're not here for a prolonged fight. Get in. Escort the doctor to the central nervous system. Deploy the viral agents. Get out. 20 minutes max." The shuttle's specialized prow began to glow as it activated its biological cutting system, technology reverse-engineered from certain predatory space-dwelling organisms discovered near Jupiter decades earlier. As they closed with the Devourer ship, the cutting edge made contact with the creature's outer membrane. The impact threw everyone forward against their restraints. Alarms blared as the shuttle's systems registered the bioship's automatic responses, cellular structures attempting to engulf and digest the intruder. "Cutting through final layer," the pilot reported. "Prepare for atmosphere breach." Tara felt her stomach lurch as the shuttle broke through into the interior of the massive organism. The viewport revealed a cavernous space lined with pulsing tissues and filled with a reddish mist. "Atmosphere analysis?" Rodriguez demanded. "Toxic to humans," the environmental officer replied. "Corrosive compounds similar to hydrochloric acid, but organic in nature. Suits will provide protection for approximately 40 minutes before degradation begins." "Then we have 35 minutes," Rodriguez decided. "Move out." The shuttle's hatch opened, and the team deployed into the bizarre interior of the living ship. Tara followed her escort, trying to maintain professional detachment as she observed the alien biology surrounding them. The floor beneath their boots was soft tissue that pulsed rhythmically, while the walls glistened with secretions that dripped from ceiling to floor. "Directional guidance?" Rodriguez asked. Akira, scientist, connected via communications link, responded. "Based on our analysis, the neural center should be approximately 800 meters toward what you would consider the bow of the vessel." The team began moving through undulating corridors of living tissue. Their helmet lights illuminated the strange interior, occasionally revealing apertures that opened and closed like sphincters, allowing the reddish mist to flow between chambers. "Movement detected," warned one of the Marines suddenly, raising his weapon. From a large opening ahead, several smaller organisms emerged. They resembled a cross between crabs and jellyfish, with multiple limbs ending in sharp, bony protrusions. Their translucent bodies pulsed with the same bioluminescence as the larger ship. "Maintenance organisms," Tara suggested, scanning them with her handheld device. "Probably the equivalent of immune system cells." "They've spotted us," Rodriguez announced as the creatures turned in unison, their limbs extending toward the human intruders. "Defensive formation!" The Marines moved with practiced efficiency, forming a protective circle around Terra as the creatures charged, energy weapons discharged, hitting the leading organisms, instead of falling. However, they seemed to absorb the energy, their bioluminescence brightening. "Kinetic weapons," ordered Rodriguez, switching his rifle setting. The next volley fired solid projectiles that tore through the creatures' bodies, splattering the walls with luminescent fluid. More of the organisms poured from additional openings, drawn by either the disturbance or some internal communication system. "We need to move faster," Terra urged. "The central nervous system is our target. Everything else is a distraction." Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Thompson, Klein, rear guard. Buy us time. Catch up if you can." The two Marines nodded, understanding the likely suicide nature of the order. They took positions at a narrowing in the corridor, while the rest of the team pressed forward with terror. The sounds of combat faded behind them as they moved deeper into the living vessel. The passages grew narrower, the pulsing of the surrounding tissue more pronounced. "We're getting close," Terra announced, checking her scanner. "The neural activity is intensifying." They emerged into a vast chamber dominated by what appeared to be a massive brain-like structure. Tendrils extended from it in all directions, disappearing into the walls, floor, and ceiling. The entire mass pulsed with light that shifted in complex patterns. "That's it," Terra breathed. "The central control system." Rodriguez surveyed the chamber. "No visible defenders, but stay alert. Doctor, do your work." Terra approached the brain-like structure, removing her specialized containers. Each held a different viral agent, designed to attack the devourer biology in specific ways. As she prepared the aerosol dispersal system, she couldn't help but marvel at the complexity of the organism they were about to destroy. "Magnificent," she murmured. "A completely integrated biological system capable of interstellar travel and coordinated action across thousands of units." "Doctor," Rodriguez prompted. "The clock is ticking." Tara nodded, pushing aside her scientific fascination. Deploying first viral agent, neural pathway disruptor. She activated the dispersal system, which released a fine mist toward the pulsating brain structure. The mist, designed to target the creature's equivalent of synapses, began to settle on the neural tissue. Almost immediately, the chamber shuddered. The bioluminescent patterns across the brain structure became erratic, flashing in disorganized sequences. "It's working," Tara announced, checking her scanner. "Neural activity is becoming chaotic. Moving to second agent, reproductive inhibitor." As she prepared the second container, the entire chamber convulsed violently. The walls began secreting a thick, yellowish fluid that smoked where it touched the metal of the Marine's armor. "Increased corrosive activity," warned one of the Marines as his armor integrity alert activated. "It's defending itself." "Keep going, our doctor," Rodriguez urged, positioning his team to protect her from the increasing environmental hazards. Tara deployed the second viral agent, her movements precise despite the deteriorating conditions. The reproductive inhibitor would prevent the devourer from creating new bioships, effectively sterilizing the entire collective. "Final agent ready," she announced, reaching for the third container, the one containing the most lethal virus, capable of causing complete cellular breakdown across the entire devourer collective. Her hand hesitated for just a moment. "Doctor?" Rodriguez questioned. Tara looked at the brain structure, now visibly deteriorating under the assault of the first two agents. "The first two vectors are working. This third one, it's extinction level." "That's the mission," Rodriguez reminded her. "I know." Tara activated the final dispersal system, releasing the deadliest of her creations into the heart of the living ship. "May whatever gods exist forgive us." The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The brain structure began to disintegrate. Patches of tissue liquefying before their eyes, the chamber shook violently, and the atmospheric mist thickened to a dangerous level. "We need to move," Rodriguez ordered. "Back to the shuttle, now." They retreated through corridors that were now contracting spasmodically, as if the entire organism was in its death throes. Two more Marines fell to suddenly appearing defense mechanisms, living weapons that erupted from the walls to impale them. Tara focused on running, trying to ignore the destruction surrounding them, destruction she had engineered. The weight of billions of deaths, even alien, hostile deaths, pressed on her consciousness with each step. By the time they reached the shuttle, only half the team remained. They sealed the hatch just as the interior of the bioship began to collapse around them. "Get us out of here," Rodriguez ordered the pilot. The shuttle's cutting prow activated again, carving an exit path through the now weakened tissues of the dying bioship. As they broke free into open space, the view screen showed chaos across the battlefield. The Devourer swarm was in disarray. Many of the bioships were turning on each other, attacking with the same weapons they had used against their enemies. Others drifted listlessly, their propulsion systems failing as the viral agents spread through the biological network that connected them. "It worked," Tara whispered, watching the massive collective begin to disintegrate. "All three vectors are propagating through their communication system." Rodriguez placed a hand on her shoulder. "You saved the Kira homeworld, Doctor. Remember that." Tara nodded silently, but her eyes remained fixed on the dying swarm, a scientific miracle turned into a weapon of mass destruction by her hand. As their shuttle approached the Thermopylae, the fleet's communication channels filled with reports of Devourer ships self-destructing or drifting powerless through space. What had been an overwhelming force was now a scattered collection of dying organisms. Victory had come at a terrible price, both for the humans who had died in the assault and for Tara's conscience. But the Kira would survive. Their crystalline civilization preserved by the desperate action of the Deathworlders, they had called for help. Admiral Silva stood on the bridge of the Thermopylae, watching the remnants of the Devourer swarm drift through space. The once mighty biological armada had been reduced to scattered, dying clusters in less than 3 hours of battle. Casualty reports coming in. Admiral, Commander Ortiz announced solemnly. 17 ships lost from Alpha Group, 6 from Beta. Gamma Group reports approximately 60% casualties among the insertion teams. Silva closed her eyes briefly, absorbing the cost of their victory. And the Kira homeworld? Safe. The remaining Devourer forces are either destroying themselves or drifting powerless. The viral agents worked exactly as Dr. Pham designed. The view screen shifted to show the Kira home system, a beautiful arrangement of crystalline planets orbiting a blue-white star. Already, the news of Earth's intervention was spreading across Galactic Council communication channels, accompanied by footage of the battle captured by Kira observation platforms. "The Council is convening an emergency session," reported the communications officer. "They're demanding Earth representatives attend to explain our unauthorized military action." Silva's lips curved in a grim smile. "I'm sure Ambassador Liu will be delighted to address them." A medical officer approached. "Admiral, Dr. Pham has returned from the insertion mission. She's requesting to speak with you in private." Silva nodded. "I'll see her in my ready room. Commander Ortiz, you have the bridge. Begin recovery operations for our damaged vessels." In the small, austere room adjacent to the bridge, Terra Pham stood at the viewport, still wearing her tactical suit minus the helmet. Her face was drawn with exhaustion and something deeper, the weight of what she had created. "Doctor," Silva greeted her. "Your countermeasures exceeded all expectations. The Kira civilization stands because of your work." Terra didn't turn from the viewport. "I designed the perfect extinction event, Admiral. Billions of organisms, possibly sentient beings, dead by my hand." Silva moved to stand beside her, both women now looking out at the debris field that had once been the Devourer swarm. "We tried communication," Silva reminded her. "The Kira tried for decades. These organisms existed only to consume. They weren't interested in coexistence." "Perhaps," Terra conceded. "But I keep thinking about Earth's history, how often we've justified destruction by dehumanizing the enemy." She finally turned to face the Admiral. "What if we were wrong? What if they were simply too alien for us to understand?" Silva considered this. "That's the burden of command, Doctor, making decisions with incomplete information when lives hang in the balance." She gestured toward the distant sparkle that was the Kira homeworld. 8 billion crystalline beings will continue to exist because you had the courage to act. And how many Devourers died so they could live? "War is never clean," Silva said quietly. "The question we have to ask is whether we served a greater good." Terra was silent for a long moment. "The third viral agent, the most lethal one, it hasn't finished spreading through their biological network. There are isolated pockets of the swarm that might survive. Evolve resistance." "You're saying this isn't over?" "I'm saying evolution finds a way. Admiral, always, we've won this battle, but the Devourers, as a species, I doubt we've seen the last of them." Silva nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready next time, and perhaps with allies. Now that the galaxy has seen what Earth is willing to do to protect others." The ship's communication system activated. "Admiral, priority message from Earth. President Okafor wishes to address the fleet." "Put it through." The view screen activated, showing the President's solemn face. "Admiral Silva, Dr. Pham, Earth has received word of your victory. The Galactic Council is in uproar, but the Kira are safe." Her expression softened. "You have shown the galaxy what humanity stands for, that we will defend those who cannot defend themselves, regardless of politics or convenience." "Thank you, Madam President." Silver replied. But the cost was high. It always is. Okafor acknowledged. The Council has demanded your presence at an emergency session to answer for our interference. I've instructed Ambassador Liu to inform them that Earth requires 48 hours to mourn our dead before we will consider their summons. Terra finally spoke. What will happen to Earth's standing in the galactic community? President Okafor's expression hardened slightly. That remains to be seen. But I've made it clear, any sanctions against Earth will be considered a hostile act against a civilization that just demonstrated its military capabilities rather decisively. After the communication ended, Terra returned to the viewport. So we've saved one civilization and potentially alienated 47 others. Politics will sort itself out, Silver replied. What matters is that we did what was right, not what was easy. The Death World philosophy in action, Terra murmured. Exactly. It's what makes us who we are, for better or worse. The two women stood in silence, watching as recovery vessels began the solemn task of collecting the human dead from the battlefield. In the distance, Kira's ships approached the Hellfleet, their crystalline structures glittering with internal lights pulsing in patterns that the humans' translators identified as gratitude and mourning. Two civilizations, utterly different in biology and history, united by a simple truth. Sometimes survival required terrible choices, and sometimes the strongest needed to defend the vulnerable, regardless of the cost. The Galactic Council reconvened 1 week after the Battle of Kira Space. As it was now being called throughout the interstellar community, the Metal Hall had been expanded to accommodate additional observers, representatives from worlds beyond the Council who had requested permission to witness the proceedings. Ambassador Mara Liu entered with a different stride than before. No longer the cautious newcomer, but a representative of a power that had demonstrated both its military prowess and its moral convictions. Beside her walked Elder Luminex of the Kira, the crystalline being's body glowing with complex patterns of light. High Counselor Thrix called the session to order, his scales displaying muted colors that indicated formal disapproval. This emergency session will address the unilateral military action taken by Earth forces in Kira Space. In direct violation of Council non-interference protocols, his voice carried throughout the chamber. Ambassador Liu, you will explain your government's actions. Mara stepped to the central platform, her expression serene despite the tension filling the hall. High Counselor, distinguished representatives, 1 week ago, the Kira people faced extinction. They came to this council, the body sworn to protect all member worlds, and were told to accept their fate. She paused, allowing her words to resonate. Earth refused to accept this answer. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The provisional member status granted to Earth included acceptance of Council protocols. Thrix countered. Your military intervention without Council approval constitutes a breach of your membership agreement. Indeed, Mara acknowledged. Earth was fully aware of the potential consequences when we deployed our fleet. We deemed the survival of an entire civilization worth the risk of political sanction. The representative from Vega Prime, a gaseous being contained within a hovering environmental sphere, moved forward. The question before this council is not merely one of protocol, but of precedent. If members may deploy military forces at will, without collective authorization, the peace we have maintained for millennia is threatened. Mara turned to address the vegan directly. Is it peace when we stand by while billions die? Is it order when we hide behind protocols rather than fulfill our most basic obligation to protect life? Bold words from a species whose history is written in warfare, remarked the Moldarian delegate. Thrix is second in command. Yes, Mara agreed, surprising many. Humanity's history is indeed violent. We evolved on a world that forced us to fight for every advancement, every moment of peace. But that same history taught us something this council seems to have forgotten, that strength carries responsibility. She gestured to Elder Luminex, who floated forward, internal lights shimmering. The Kira people wish to address the council, Mara announced. Thrix hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. The crystalline being moved to the center of the platform, towering over the human ambassador. My people have been members of this council for 7,000 years. Luminex began, the translator converting the light patterns into sound. In all that time, we contributed to collective defense, provided resources for council projects, and abided by every protocol. Yet when destruction came to our doorstep, our loyalty was rewarded with abandonment. The chamber fell silent. The humans, newcomers whom many of you dismiss as primitive and violent, sacrificed their lives for beings they had never met. 73 of their ships were damaged. 23 were destroyed completely. 847 humans died to save my people. The elder's body pulsed with emotions too complex for the translator to fully convey. The Kira hereby formally petition for a military alliance with Earth. Independent of council structures, we will share our technology, our resources, and our eternal gratitude with the Deathworlders who stood when others sat, who fought when others deliberated. Gasps and exclamations filled the chamber. Such an alliance outside council oversight was unprecedented. High Counselor Thrix's scales darkened further. Such an arrangement would violate numerous protocols, traditions, Mara interjected. The same ones that would have allowed the Kira to perish. From the gallery, another voice spoke, the representative of the Arcturus Collective, a hive mind species that rarely participated in council politics. The Arcturus wished to be recognized. Thrix seemed startled, but nodded his assent. The Arcturen, a tall, insectoid being, addressed the assembly. We have observed these proceedings with great interest. The humans acted in a manner our collective finds logical. Protection of sentient life must supersede bureaucratic constraint. The being turned its compound eyes toward Mara. The Arcturus Collective also seeks alliance with Earth. More voices joined. The Procyon Federation, the Tau Ceti Cooperatives, even the notoriously isolationist Regellians. One by one, civilizations that had observed Earth's actions declared their interest in forming relationships outside the Council's traditional structure. High Counselor Thrix struck his staff against the platform 3 times. Restoring order? His scales had shifted to a pattern the most ancient members recognized as rarely seen, resignation mixed with reluctant respect. It appears Earth's actions, while procedurally incorrect, have resonated with many member worlds. He turned to Mara. Ambassador Liu, the Council finds itself at a crossroads. Your world's intervention has challenged our most fundamental operating principles. Perhaps those principles need challenging. Counselor, Mara replied quietly. Perhaps a body dedicated to mutual protection should actually protect. Thrix conferred briefly with the senior council members before addressing the assembly again. The council proposes the following. Earth's provisional status will be elevated to full membership, effective immediately. In exchange, Earth will agree to work within council structures to reform our collective defense protocols. He fixed Mara with all 4 of his eyes. Your people have demonstrated both the will and the capability to defend others. The Council would prefer to have such qualities working within our systems rather than outside them. Mara maintained a diplomatic expression, but inwardly she celebrated a victory far greater than military success. Earth had forced the galaxy's oldest political body to evolve. Earth accepts these terms, High Counselor, with one condition. The reforms must begin immediately, not through committees and centuries of deliberation. The next civilization threatened must not face the same abandonment the Kira experienced. Thrix's scales rippled with reluctant agreement. So be it. This council recognizes Earth as full members, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. He turned to address the entire assembly. And may the galaxy remember this moment when the Deathworlders taught us the true meaning of civilization. As the session concluded, Elder Luminex approached Mara. The crystalline being's lights formed patterns that the translator struggled to interpret. The human language has no exact equivalent, the device finally produced. The closest concept would be those who stand between death and the innocent. Mara smiled. On Earth, we have a word for that. Protectors. Protectors, the Elder repeated, lights pulsing with approval. The galaxy will remember that Earth's Deathworlders became its protectors when called upon. My people will sing crystalline songs of your bravery for millennia to come. As they left the council chamber together, representatives from a dozen worlds approached, eager to establish relations with the species that had demonstrated both the willingness to fight and the wisdom to know when fighting was necessary. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as merchants, but as defenders of those who could not defend themselves. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's guardians, turning the very traits that had marked them as dangerous into the qualities that made them essential. And somewhere in the darkness beyond known space, the remnants of the Devourer swarm drifted, weakened but not extinct, evolving, adapting, perhaps one day to return. But when they did, they would find not isolated civilizations, but a galaxy united by the example of a species forged in environmental hell and tempered by compassion. The Deathworlders had roared to war when aliens cried for help, and the galaxy would never be the same.